Jimmy Kimmel thought he'd get the last laugh, until Sylvester Stallone fired back with a clever, unexpected line that caught everyone off guard. That Wednesday night on Jimmy Kimmel Live sparked a moment the internet can't stop talking about. It was a regular Wednesday night in November 2024, and Jimmy Kimmel was doing what he does best, hosting his late-night show on ABC. The Hollywood studio was buzzing as usual, with the audience ready for a night of laughs and celebrity guests. That night, Kimmel had Sylvester Stallone lined up for an interview. Stallone, the 78-year-old legend behind Rocky and Rambo, was there to talk about a new project he was working on. But anyone who watches late-night TV knows these interviews can go off the rails pretty quick, and that's exactly what happened. Kimmel had been hosting Jimmy Kimmel Live for over 20 years at this point. He knew how to read a room, crack a joke, and keep the audience entertained. His monologues were always full of topical humor, often taking shots at celebrities or politicians. Just a few days earlier, Stallone had been in the news for something he said at a Mar-a-Lago gala. He'd called Donald Trump the second George Washington, which got a lot of people on X talking. Some thought it was a wild comparison, others thought it was hilarious, and Kimmel saw it as the perfect setup for a joke. When Stallone came out and sat down, the audience gave him a big round of applause. Stallone, with his deep voice and that familiar tough guy vibe, waved and smiled. Kimmel kicked things off casually, asking Stallone about his new project and bringing up some old stories from his career. Stallone shared how he wrote the script for Rocky in just 3 days and fought to star in it himself, which got a good reaction from the crowd. The two were getting along fine, laughing and trading stories like you'd expect on a show like this. But Kimmel had something up his sleeve. He loved setting up his guests for a little roast, and Stallone's Mar-a-Lago comment was too good to pass up. After a few minutes of friendly chat, Kimmel brought it up. He mentioned how Stallone had called Trump the second George Washington, and the audience started chuckling. Kimmel grinned, then hit Stallone with a jab. He said maybe all those punches Rocky took to the head in the movies were real after all. The crowd laughed and Kimmel kept going. He added that George Washington was the father of the country, but Trump was the father of Eric, which got an even bigger laugh. Kimmel leaned back in his chair, looking pretty pleased with himself. He figured he'd landed a solid hit, and the audience was on his side. Stallone, though, didn't even flinch. He just sat there for a second, a little smirk on his face while the laughter died down. Then he leaned forward, looked Kimmel right in the eye, and in that gravelly voice everyone knows, he said, "You're done, Weasel." The audience let out a collective gasp, then burst into laughter and cheers. Kimmel's face froze for a split second. He wasn't expecting that at all. Stallone's line was quick, sharp, and totally out of left field, and it flipped the whole moment on its head. The way Stallone said it wasn't mean or angry. It was playful, but it had that edge you'd expect from someone who's played tough guys his whole life. Calling Kimmel a weasel was such a perfect dig because it made Kimmel sound like some sneaky little guy trying to mess with a legend. The audience could feel the shift. Kimmel was usually the one landing the punches, but Stallone had just turned the tables in a way no one saw coming. Kimmel snapped out of it pretty fast, laughing and clapping his hands. He admitted Stallone got him good, saying something like, okay, you win." The two laughed it off and the interview kept going, but that moment stuck with everyone in the room. The audience knew they'd just seen something you don't get every day, a guest who could go toe-to-toe with Kimmel and come out on top. Stallone's comeback wasn't just funny. It was the kind of line that felt so true to who he is, like something Rocky might say if he were sitting in that chair. When the show cut to a commercial break, the energy in the studio was through the roof. The producers were already talking about how they had to get that clip online as soon as possible. They knew it was the kind of moment that could blow up on social media. Backstage, people were laughing about how Kimmel got roasted, and some of the crew were even quoting Stallone's line to each other, saying, "You're done, Weasel," like it was already a catchphrase. Once the episode aired later that night, the clip took off. The Jimmy Kimmel Live team posted it on their YouTube channel, and by the next morning it had already racked up a couple 100,000 views. On X, people were sharing it left and right. One person tweeted that Stallone still had it, saying he was a champ in and out of the ring. Another user wrote that Kimmel finally got what was coming to him, adding a bunch of laughing emojis. The comments under the YouTube video were full of people saying things like, "Sly just owned him," and "Kimmel didn't see that coming." Over on Reddit, the clip got posted in a few different groups, like ones for TV fans and celebrity moments. People there started breaking it down, talking about how Stallone's delivery made the line so good. They pointed out how his deep voice and that little smirk gave it an extra punch. Some folks thought Kimmel's joke about Stallone's Trump comment was a bit harsh, while others said it was just typical late-night humor. Either way, everyone agreed Stallone's comeback was the highlight of the night. The moment spread to TikTok pretty quick, too. People started making their own videos about it, with some stitching the clip and adding their reactions. One TikTok user did a funny impression of Stallone, growling, "You're done, Weasel," while pretending to punch the air. Another person made a meme out of it, using the line over a clip of a cartoon character getting knocked out. Pretty soon, people were using "You're done, Weasel" in all kinds of random situations online, like when someone got shut down in an argument or lost a game. Kimmel didn't let the moment slide. The next night on his show, he brought it up during his monologue. He laughed about how Stallone had caught him off guard and said he probably should have known better than to mess with someone like Rocky. Kimmel played the clip again, and this time, they added a little graphic of a cartoon weasel with Kimmel's face on it, which got a big laugh from the audience. Kimmel was good at rolling with the punches. He'd been doing this long enough to know how to take a hit and keep the crowd on his side. Stallone didn't say much about it himself, but his fans were all over it. On Instagram, people flooded his recent posts with comments about the Kimmel moment. One fan wrote, "You showed Kimmel who's boss, Sly." Another said, "Legend." That Weasel line was gold. A lot of people were saying how cool it was to see Stallone's sense of humor, because he's usually known for action roles, not quick comebacks like that. The whole thing got people talking about Stallone in a new way. He'd been in the spotlight lately for his political comments, especially the Trump stuff, and not everyone was a fan of that. Some people felt like his support for Trump didn't really match the underdog vibe of characters like Rocky. But this moment on Kimmel's show reminded everyone why they loved Stallone in the first place. He was still the same guy who could hold his own, whether he was in a boxing ring or on a talk show set. It showed he could take a joke and give one right back, and that made him seem more down to earth. The clip kept making the rounds online in the days after the show. Entertainment sites like TMZ and News wrote about it, saying it was one of those rare times a guest got the better of a late-night host. They pointed out how Kimmel's usually the one with the upper hand, so seeing him get roasted like that was a big deal. Some articles wondered if Stallone had planned the line ahead of time, but people who were in the audience that night said it didn't seem like it. The way Stallone said it, with that little smirk and the way he leaned in, made it feel like he came up with it right then and there. It wasn't just about the clip itself. People started talking about late-night TV in general. On X, some users said this was why they still watch shows like Kimmel's, because you never knew when something unscripted like this would happen. Others thought Kimmel's joke about Stallone was part of a bigger thing with late-night hosts, where they leaned too hard into political humor. They liked that Stallone pushed back, because it showed guests didn't always have to just sit there and take it. Kimmel didn't seem too bothered by the whole thing. A few weeks later, he was on a radio show and got asked about the moment. He said he thought it was hilarious and that Stallone was a great guest. He admitted he didn't see the comeback coming, but he liked how it made the interview stand out. Kimmel had been around long enough to know that not every joke lands the way you want, and he gave Stallone props for being quick on his feet. For Stallone's fans, though, it was a total win. They felt like he'd stood up for himself while also showing he could be funny. Some people even started saying Stallone should do more comedy stuff because his timing was so good. He'd done some lighter roles before, like in The Expendables where he'd poke fun at himself, but this moment made people think he could hold his own in a different kind of spotlight. The internet kept the moment alive for weeks. People were still sharing the clip in group chats and on forums, and the "You're done, Weasel" line turned into a meme. Someone would say it in a comment section whenever they thought someone got owned in an argument. Others used it in random posts, like if their team lost a game or they messed up a recipe. Stuff like, "Burned my dinner tonight. You're done, Weasel." It was one of those lines that just stuck with people. The moment even got some fans creative. On X, someone shared a drawing they did of Stallone as Rocky, standing over a little cartoon weasel with Kimmel's face. Another person made a YouTube video compiling Stallone's best moments, putting the Kimmel clip right next to scenes from Rocky and Rambo. It was clear the exchange had struck a chord with people because they kept finding new ways to talk about it. For Kimmel's show, the moment was a big boost. Some people who hadn't watched in a while tuned in after seeing the clip, hoping to catch more stuff like that. The show's YouTube channel saw a spike in views, and the clip became one of their most watched videos of the year. The producers were happy because it showed that late-night TV could still get people talking, even with all the competition from streaming and social media. For Stallone, it was a reminder that he still got it. At 78, he was proving he could still command attention, whether he was on a movie set or a talk show. The moment gave his fans something new to cheer for, especially for those who felt like his political comments had taken some of the shine off his legacy. It showed he was still the same Sly who could surprise you, and that meant a lot to the people who'd been rooting for him since the 70s. Kimmel and Stallone didn't really cross paths again after that night, at least not publicly, but the moment they shared kept people talking. It was one of those things that could only happen on live TV, where you never know what's going to come out of someone's mouth. For the audience, it was a night they wouldn't forget, a time when two Hollywood heavyweights went at it, and Stallone came out with a line that hit harder than any punch Rocky ever threw. That Wednesday night on Jimmy Kimmel Live started out like any other episode, but it ended with a moment that people couldn't stop sharing. Stallone's "You're done, Weasel" wasn't just a funny comeback. It was the kind of thing that reminded everyone why live TV can be so much fun, and why legends like Stallone still have a way of stealing the show.